Greetings, Macadine family. I'm Camille Shabazz, and I'm hoping all is well with you and family. And I'm also hoping that you got your copy of this very powerful book, The Macadine. Be ye wise as the serpent, essential knowledge for boys and men. A powerful book that's aligned perfectly with the times that we are living in. But not to go too deep into the book, I wanted to talk briefly to you about Black Lives Matter and the trick of Black Lives Matter, and how Black Lives Matter is actually a government-ran, government-backed, not government-funded totally, but there are other avenues in which they are receiving government funds. But they are mainly and namely backed by George Soros, who is a Hungarian billionaire who's I think he's about 89 years old now. And that's not even the essence of what I want to talk to you about. This organization, Black Lives Matter, is a gay-ran organization whose main purpose and aims and goals has nothing to do with true black liberation, which is separation and reparations. Black Lives Matter was formed by 3 lesbian women. And I know most people, most of us, who are chanting Black Lives Matter have never read their manifesto, have never read what they believe and what their goals are. Now, mind you that they blew up during the Mike Brown death in Ferguson, after which they received the funds from George Soros of $100 million. What was really a missing link that people don't know about today is the fact that when they were given this money and they blew up in Ferguson, there were some strong brothers that were involved in the movement. Strong brothers. And one brother in particularly, you can look him up. His name is Darren Seals. Rest in power. This brother was like the backbone of the movement, him and various other brothers, but he stood out the most. And they were following him. He exposed the fact that this was a homosexual group, a gay group with gay agendas. And before you know it, he was being followed by the police. And then him, along with 5 other black strong members of the movement within the next 2 years, were all found slain, burned up, shot to death, with no leads to who did it. But we who have an understanding know that when you're backed by such strong and powerful men like a George Soros and other government officials, you have your own hitmen who do away with undesirables in the group. Darren Seals was killed. He was burnt to death and shot to death. Then there was another brother by the name of, I think his name was DeAndre Joshua. And they even recently, within the last year or so, there was a reverend, I believe it's Derek Gray. They actually put a 6-foot python in the man's car so that he could either get bit or eaten to death by him. But whatever the case may be, the design of Black Lives Matter is only for this coalition that these individuals have with the gay community, with the gay rights community. What's that? The LGBLT or whatever it is. I don't get caught up in all those alphabets, because just like the alphabets themselves, they'll make you go crazy and confuse you. But the bottom line is that this Black Lives Movement is a homosexual transgender movement and has been that from the door. But those of us who are out here shouting Black Lives Matter don't even know the half of it. But what I'm gonna do is go to what they believe. And you should do the same thing after you hear this little lecture. Go to their beliefs. What Black Lives Matter, what we believe. I'm not going to read the whole thing, and it's not that long. But in a nutshell, if I may just put it in a nutshell, what they're doing is they're talking about their beginnings, how they started during the Trayvon Martin murder. A couple things they did back then, but it wasn't until the Mike Brown murder that the movement catalyzed. And of course, money from George Soros. But they go on to say that we are unapologetically black in our positioning. In affirming that Black Lives Matter, we need not qualify our position. We see ourselves as part of the global black family. And we are aware of the different ways we are impacted or privileged as black people who exist in different parts of the world. So they go on, they talk this talk. We are guided by the fact that all Black lives matter, regardless of actual or perceived sexual identity, gender expression, economic status, etc., etc. But then they go on. It starts to go away from black. And then they say, we make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. Okay, you go down again, and then they talk about how they are reflexive and do the work required to dismantle cisgender privilege and uplift black trans folk, especially black trans women who continue to be disproportionately impacted by trans antagonistic violence, words and phrases we never hear about or heard about in the black community. But I see they're going away from black, and they're letting you know what their true mission is. And then they tell you what their true mission is, because as you go down, it says, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement. Wait a minute. The nuclear family structure requirement, as they call it, but the nuclear family is man and woman and child through a natural process of sex between the two and a child, etc. They're saying that we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. Why? For what? These are the minds of the three lesbians who started the group. Then it says, we foster a queer affirming network. Why? You got about 10,000 black lawyers, you got thousands of black doctors, you got thousands of black judges, but you don't see them saying that black judges' lives matter, or black doctors or black lawyers' lives matter. Because collectively, as black people, our lives do matter. But the fact of the matter in this case is that this has nothing to do with black freedom. This is an attempt for transsexuals and homosexuals to be the leaders of the black community and the black agenda. This is the goal, for it to be ran by feminist homosexuals, transgenders, queers, you name them. This is why they have this old fool Billy, I don't know what his name is. Billy Storp, Billy Owens, it'll come to me. But this ignorant Negro man like Don Lemon, who's married to white men, these sickos, these are sick men. They're being put out front to push this Black Lives Matter agenda. And wherever, I'm going back to what I was talking about in regards to the brothers who got killed. 6 brothers and sisters, no, 6 brothers got killed who were standing up against Black Lives Matter, who exposed their agenda. They got killed. No, they got assassinated. And if you look at what's going on right now in Kentucky, in New York yesterday, it's not the Black Lives Matter true agenda is coming out. They're down there fighting for transgender power. And they're taking the spotlight off of the real issue. And they're aiming it at that transgender bullshit. They don't represent black people. They don't represent the best interests of black people. It's a transsexual, homosexual, gay movement. And if any black man anywhere, and it's a lot of us who are in this group who have great good intentions, but it's not designed for a strong black man to be in any position in that organization. And if, like I said earlier, with Darren Seals and the other brothers in Ferguson, if they oppose the Black Lives Matter agenda, they will be assassinated as well. There's big money behind this Black Lives Matter agenda. Billions of dollars is behind this because it's guiding you into where they want black men and women to be, and that's in a confused life of homosexuality. That's where they want you at, and that's what I talk about in my book, The Magazine. How they want all boys and men to be homosexual or just totally neutered. That's why they're decreasing the testosterone levels in men by poisoning the waters and giving you all these chemicals in our foods. We got to come out of this, man. Black Lives Matter is not for us. They don't represent the black man and woman of America. They're not talking about reparations, and they're not talking about separation, which is the only solution to the black man's problem in America. They're not talking about policing our own communities with our own police. No, they're talking about refunding and defunding. That's not the thoughts and the acts of free people at all. So as they said, they foster a queer affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking. Heterosexuality is normal sex. They're trying to free themselves and free others from the tight grip of heteronormative. All these names they're making up. But it means people who have normal sex, who are normal sexually, man and woman. So they're trying to free people from the grip of heterosexual health and living. So it says, freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking, or rather the belief that all in the world are heterosexual unless he or she disclose otherwise. These are some real crafty witches. Witches. Get this book. It will inoculate you from all the bullshit. It's on Amazon right now. You'll be able to see through all the bullshit, all the web of lies, all the spells that's being cast by these politicians, liars and deceivers. Who ever heard of a revolution that's televised and organized and structured and peaceful? There's no such thing as that. Do your research. Every revolution consisted of bloodshed. The landless against the landlords. Wake your game up, brothers. Peace.